Hello, I'm Philip Duncan. Thank you very much for joining us for our weather update across New Zealand and also Australia. We're looking for rainmakers in both nations. So let's get into it. Here is the big high. This is the feature dominating the weather across both Aussie and New Zealand for the next week ahead. It's a huge system. It doesn't actually look so big on the wind map here, but you'll see in a moment. So this is dominating the weather. It is driving in a southerly for many parts of New Zealand, dropping temperatures a wee bit overnight, but in the north, there's a bit of an easterly flow developing around Auckland. And for some reason, a lot of people are asking me about what the wind will be doing precisely at 4 and 5 o'clock later today in Auckland. So here's a close-up of that time frame, 4 o'clock. You can see there's an easterly flow. That's the one we just saw. That's the opposite of yesterday, where there was a west to southwest flow over Auckland. So it'll tilt more northeast as we go into this afternoon. But at the same time on the west coast, there is a sou'wester. That means somewhere over probably West Auckland, there'll be a bit of convergence where the two winds meet. That's also where the winds stop. Bad news if you want to be out on a boat. So we'll be watching this very, very closely, but I think based on the data we're looking at from IBM, Auckland's winds do pick up from the northeast around about 4 or 5 o'clock today. So we'll keep our fingers and toes crossed. Okay, let's have a look at Thursday. High pressure dominates. So here it is, parked between Tasmania and the South Island, 1037. It looks as though that's the high just in that area, but when you actually look at it, it goes all the way off to the very western side of the map. It is a really big, big high. 1037 in the middle, all the way out here, still 1024. So this is a really solid system. But obviously, further south means that there's an easterly flow right across New Zealand and all across Australia. So you're really going to notice that easterly, especially along the eastern side of Aussie. Big downpours moving in towards New South Wales and the coastal areas. But in New Zealand, only a couple of little showers around Hawke's Bay, maybe one up in the north, but it won't be much. Now, as we go towards Friday, not a great deal of change. The high, in fact, has got a little bit bigger by Friday. Still got those little light showers in northern New Zealand. The cloud cover and those easterlies will help lift up the overnight temperatures. The showers won't accumulate too much. If you look at the rainfall accumulation maps at weatherwatch.co.nz, interactive map where you can pull the slider along, see what the rainfall accumulation is going to be like, these showers are not delivering very much at all, unfortunately. Over here, though, that's where the real rain will be, just north of Sydney. And in fact, by Saturday, those downpours slide further down over Sydney itself and bring some wet weather for you. We've also got a rainmaker coming out of the desert, forming, or out of the tropics, I should say, into the desert. Over the last year, this has happened a number of times. About the 4th or 5th time we've seen a rainmaker going into these very dry areas. New Zealanders want that rain at the moment. Unfortunately, it's not really in the forecast. Even by Sunday, a couple of showers in the north, not a lot really going on though. It's still pretty dry in the New Zealand area. The high hasn't budged. Still plenty of showers along the eastern side, perhaps breaking up a wee bit though in the Sydney area. And there is that rainmaker moving through across central Aussie. And in fact, by Monday of next week, that rainmaker's coming out around Melbourne. Also on Monday, the high, I should say, in the New Zealand area has shrunk. It's down to 1033 hectopascals. Not just the air pressure that's shrinking, but the size of the system. Remember, it was off to the western side of the map before, but as we look at Monday's one, only goes out to Melbourne, and that's where that low from Darwin will be sliding down and forming from. So not a great deal of change in the New Zealand area, but a big change going on in that southeastern corner. And as we get to Tuesday of next week, the high still weakening, but now it's moving in over New Zealand, so New Zealanders won't notice that it's weakened 10 hectopascals. It won't make any difference to us. Showers continue and more wet weather in areas that are usually quite dry for Australia. Now, I've got to say, later next week, there is a bit of life up in this area, so I think it's worth keeping an eye on. We did say yesterday that high pressure would dominate New Zealand for the rest of the month, but there is a bit of a disclaimer on that, and that's that northern New Zealand might get a rainmaker. Might. It's not locked in. Confidence would only be about 25% at this stage, but with all these rainmakers around us and a gap between the two highs, there is some chance of getting a low pressure system or some wet weather maybe in the New Zealand area towards the end of the month. That's all from me. We'll be back again on Thursday with our next update.